To replace gasoline with electricity for automobile and motor vehicle use, wires would have to be stretched to distribute the electricity, and the electricity would have to be purchased. For $60 barrel petroleum, there are 42 gallons in a barrel, so the price of the petroleum is about $1.50 per gallon. When you add in transportation, refinery, distribution costs, you will be up to between $2.30 and $2.50 per gallon in total cost. If you want to use electricity, a gallon of gasoline produces about 12 useful horsepower hours, or about 9 kilowatt hours of power. The auto and electric system, for the power produced at a power plant, there are line losses, transmission losses, battery losses, engine losses. On the other hand, energy can be recovered on such things as stopping and downhill, so the net effect might be that you could still get 9 kilowatt hours at generation capacity at a power plant, might be able to replace 1 gallon of gasoline. Wind power can cost 8 cents per kilowatt hour. Nuclear power can cost 10 cents per kilowatt hour. If you take an average of 9 cents per kilowatt hour, that comes out to 80 cents to replace a gallon of gasoline. So for $60 per barrel petroleum, subtracting 80 from $2.30 or $2.50, you get between $1.50 and $1.70 per gallon. There are about 180 billion gallons of fuel used, gasoline and diesel, for motor vehicles. That would mean that you have at least $250 billion to perhaps $300 billion per year to pay for the cost of the distribution network. If you allow the distribution network to be every 10 square miles, so you have a 10 by 10 mile grid in rural areas of the country, vehicles would have to drive to those roads that are electrified and then proceed on their way. Going off the road, they would have to use battery power to reach their destination. To have a 10 by 10 mile grid on a large number of grids means that you need 20 miles of road for 100 miles of surface, or 1 mile of road for every 5 miles of surface. There's about 3 million square miles in the continental United States. You would need about 600,000 miles of roads. Highways are often taken out about 400,000 miles, and they are not evenly distributed. So you may need an additional 400,000 miles of state-county roads to provide adequate coverage. That's 800,000 miles of roads. If you allow each road to have an average of 5 lanes, that's 4 million miles. In addition, you want local roads to be electrified. In major cities, all of the major streets would be electrified. In other areas, maybe 2 roads going north and south and 2 roads going east-west per square mile would be electrified. There's over 300 million people in the United States. If you allow about 10,000 people per square mile, that's 30,000 square miles, times 4 roads per mile, would be 120,000. If you have 4 lanes per mile, that's 500,000. So at that, you have about 4.5 million lane miles for the cost. And financing, if there are 7% finance costs, plus perhaps 3% damage costs, so 3% of the system would be damaged every year, from everything from theft to trucks running into the various supports and weather damage, that's 10%. If a replacement time is allowed every 25 years, that's an additional 4%, so it's 14%. But at $250 to $300 billion, 14% means you have about $2 trillion in finance costs. At 4.5 million miles, you'd have about $450,000 per lane mile. That should cover it. And again, the number of 5 lane miles per road is maybe excessive. And so for $60 barrel petroleum, it should cost no more to stretch electric lines everywhere than to actually buy gasoline. Whether it can be practically used on an automobile without the automobile tipping over from wind is another question. The actual nature of the electric lines can be variable. A bronze line, which would be 40% copper and 60% tin, would be one that would have the best conductivity, the lowest line losses. But you could also use aluminum, which might wear too fast. So you could take aluminum and have basically a steel protective sheath so that most of the current travels through the aluminum, but the actual wearing surface in contact with the pantograph on top of the vehicles would be a sheet of steel. The total loss of electricity would be higher, the resistance would be higher, but it could be built. So at $60 a barrel, and perhaps less than that, it would be no more expensive than gasoline. So if nothing else, it is worth considering.